So in this video, we will look at some best practices when it comes to writing for the web. First, let's review the anatomy of a typical news article. That's something that we've seen in a previous module, but I feel that it is important to take a second look at it. The background photo here is from the Grand Canyon. That's my friend Darren, and it's a lookout called Skeleton Point, Skeleton Anatomy. I thought it was punny, thus the choice of this background photo. Here's a quick summary, a quick overview of some of the key elements that you will generally find in a typical news story, and there are a few slides. The elements will appear in not quite a random order, but don't think that because an element appears before another one that it's more important. It's just that one slide was getting too crowded, so I decided to create a few slides. The first element here is the taxonomy or the keywords. They might appear at the very top of an article, at the very bottom, off to the sides. It doesn't really matter, but several websites, including CBC Radio Canada's online platforms, will use keywords which are either automatically generated or manually created in order to help readers find similar stories. So keywords or the taxonomy, that's very important. Then we have the headline. It's pretty clear. Homeowners want province to help flood-proof, not just rebuild. It's an article that we saw in a previous module as well. But keep in mind that the headline is generally the first thing that people will see. Therefore, it is quite important. Then we have the deck. The deck is a short sentence or paragraph near the top of the story, which entices readers to keep reading. So here we have a very short deck. Disaster program doesn't normally cover prevention. So it explains the headline. We have the byline. That's the name of the author of an article. If there are several writers, there would be a series of bylines. We have a photo, so that's the feature photo, but you can have several photos within the body of your article. And in the following slides, we will take a closer look at what needs to be included whenever you embed a photo. The body of the article generally starts under the photo, the main photo. Now let's look at a few more elements. We have share buttons. They can be anywhere on the page. CBC puts them at the very top. Share buttons are important if you want people to share your content. We have the dateline or the date on which the article was first posted and then last updated. It is very important so that readers know that they are reading an article from the day of or from a week ago or a year ago. And it is also a best practice to include the date on which the article was last updated. It is a matter of transparency as well. Comments are generally at the bottom of an article. CBC decided to include a link to the comments. That's a common practice as well. Then we have the first paragraph, or sometimes a lead can be 2 or 3 paragraphs, but generally speaking, the first paragraph of your article will be your lead. We have a good example here of an in-text link. So the link is part of the core or the body of your text. So Disaster Recovery Assistance for Ontarians, DREO program, all in blue. That's an in-text link. As we will see in the coming slides, you can also include a box with a series of links. And lastly, we have an example of a pull quote. Some media outlets like CBC will actually put as a pull quote a quote that can be found elsewhere in the story, whereas other outlets like Radio Canada will actually use as pull quotes quotes that aren't anywhere else within the body of the text. Doesn't really matter. It's more or less an editorial policy. So just follow whichever policy the media you work for or freelance for uses. Let's now look at photos. Obviously, if you decide to include a photo, you need to include the photo itself or a series of photos, but photos aren't enough on their own. You need to make sure that each photo includes a caption and a photo credit. And we will see in the coming weeks and next fall that there is also another element that can be included alongside each photo, which is called the alternative text. The alternative text is hidden within the code of your page, within the HTML code, and it serves a variety of purposes. One of them being if the photo can't load, your web browser will simply showcase like a little box and the text so that people would be able to know what's in your photo. So an alternative text here could be about 25 people sitting in a room are listening to a young woman who's standing up front. That would be a visual description of the content of the photo. An alternative text will also help search engines such as Google and Bing to index your content, because then they will know exactly what's in your photo. Lastly, alternative texts can also help readers who might be using a special device. Say if someone is visually impaired and they need to use a screen reader, the screen reader will be able to read the description of the article, of the photo, so that they can understand what the photo is all about. And for those of us who do not use such a device, the text is generally hidden, so it doesn't really affect us. But keep in mind that the alternative text is important. Lastly, here are some other important elements that you may find in web stories. Labels such as breaking news, exclusive story, place lines. So the place line is, say, a location. So Gao Mali, Ottawa, hyphen, and then you know that that's where the story was filed from. Stories can also include fact boxes, hyperlinks. We saw an example of a link which was embedded within the text, but you can also include hyperlinks that are, say, in a box, or you can even use photos to link back to other pages. Graphics, charts, tables, maps are also very useful when it comes to online storytelling. You can embed elements from social media. Generally speaking, you will do so using a code which is called an iframe. We'll talk about that some more in the coming weeks, and you will learn how to code iframes next fall. And lastly, a web story can also include subheadings. So that's pretty much it for the overview of the main elements that are generally found in news stories online.